So the idea behind this plugin was to create something that's free, extremely lightweight, and has the core parameters and controls that you would want from a compressor, while also giving you some insight into what the compressor is actually doing. So here in the waveform itself, we can see the before and after. We've got some features that we'll cover here, like delta solo, that help you understand what the compressor is actually doing. And that's something that a lot of stock compressors and a lot of free compressors don't do. Let's talk through all of the features here from left to right. And we can start by just having a quick listen.
You know that they're watching, as you can't see, the vulture and the snake, the devil makes three, you're too damn tired. Can't walk straight. One more step will take you out of this place in a flash.
So along the top here, we've got our menu. We've got our bypass control, our delta solo, and internal and external sidechain. You can think of these as your main settings. Then across the top here, we've got our primary compressor controls from our detector circuit on the left that's adding a high pass filter to the sidechain or the detector of the compressor, going through to our core compressor controls, and finally our optical switch. Then down here we have our waveform display with a few settings up here. You can also resize the plugin down here, and your preset manager is here in the middle. So let's talk through all of these in a little bit more detail now. Our bypass, pretty straightforward. Then we have our delta solo. So delta just means difference. And when you hit this button, you're only going to hear what the compressor is actually doing. You're effectively soloing the difference between the input and the output. And this is unaffected by makeup gain. So what you'll hear is the compressor pumping. And what you're hearing is actually what the compressor is removing from the audio. But being able to hear that combined with being able to see here the before and after, the faded before version in the background and the after version in blue here, it really helps you understand what's actually going on, because you can see it really clearly. You can zoom in here and you can also hear it really clearly.
You know that they're watching, as you can't see, the vulture and the snake, the devil makes.
So we could hear those kind of clamping down moments really clearly. We can see the gain reduction line here pull down really quickly, and we can see the before and after waveform. And all of this together just gives us a lot of insight into what the compressor is actually doing, which is really helpful when you're learning compression. But even if you're quite confident with compression, this is something that is really helpful to listen to what frequencies you're affecting, because sometimes when you're clamping down on the compressor, you might want to know, am I grabbing a lot of kick, or am I grabbing a lot of snare, or am I grabbing a lot of vocal? What am I actually removing from the audio? And just hitting that button, it also gives you some insight into the kind of frequency balance that you're affecting. So this is helpful even if you're at an intermediate stage, and just having this display here is still really helpful even if you're not learning compression, but you just want to have a nice visual experience. Then we have our internal external sidechain. So if you want to add a compressor to your bass, for example, and sidechain it to the kick, so that when the kick comes in, it ducks the bass, you would set your sidechain up here in your DAW and then change this to external sidechain. Now going from left to right here, if we go back to one of our mix bus presets for some more kind of gentle compression, our high pass changes what the compressor is hearing. So if we add a high pass at 100 Hertz, that means the compressor is not hearing anything below 100 Hertz. So that's here on the left. The main thing there is affecting how much of the kick drum is heard in the mix bus compression, for example.
You know that they're watching, as you can't see, the vulture and the snake, the devil makes three, you're too damn tired. Can't walk straight.
And again, you can clearly see how that's changing the amount of gain reduction. You can see what transients are being affected. Here, when we had it all the way down, it's here in the kick drum. We can see it really grabbing those kick transients. When we pulled that up, you can see it's grabbing them less. Then we have our compressor settings. I won't go through all of that here. It's pretty straightforward stuff. The main thing to know is that we have a wide range of settings available, a wide range of ratios. Attack goes all the way down to 20 microseconds. So that's like 1176 FET territory. I actually find that trying to emulate the sound of a FET compressor with a plugin, something around 0.8 actually works better, even though a real 1176 is down at 20 microseconds. But you can go faster if you want to. We can also go really slow, up to 250 milliseconds attack. Release can go all the way from 25 milliseconds, which is really fast, all the way up to 5 seconds, which is really slow. So you have a wide range of settings. This is going to be extremely flexible and usable in pretty much any scenario. The underlying topology is that this is a feed-forward peak detecting compressor. So that kind of models a VCA. So this is, you can think of a VCA compressor when we've got our stock settings here and we don't have this optical switch enabled. Now, when we do switch on optical, this changes it into an LA2A optical style compressor. And that's going to have a variable attack dependent on how much gain reduction is happening, how recently gain reduction has happened. If there hasn't been any gain reduction for a while, it'll be slower, because in an optical compressor, the light has to turn back on. So it's a bit slower. If there's been lots of gain reduction, it'll be a little bit faster. And then the release has multiple stages. And again, it's highly program dependent. I like optical mode on vocals, on bass. It's also just a nice easy mode on the compressor, because you don't have to think about attack and release. It's going to be really program dependent and quite flexible. And then you can just focus on your other controls. And the cool thing here is you can still mess with the knee. So if you want to emulate an LA2A, having the knee around 6 dB I find works best. That closely matches what I've got here, maybe even up to 9 dB. But if you want to be more aggressive and have a hard knee style LA2A, you can do that. Equally, you can play around with the ratio. So you still have some control, but again, you can just use the preset if you want that classic opto sound. We've got some other cool presets here, all the way from bus compressors to a few different analog models, recreating effect compressor, opto, VCA, tube bus, and also a couple of mastering presets. These are all included free with the compressor. And one more thing to note is if you want to resize and keep your preferred size, you can go here, hit save as default in your DAW. Now when you load up the plugin in another instance, it will recall the size that you set it to. So you can have it really big if you like it nice and big to get that kind of full screen visual experience. One more thing to note, this is extremely low CPU usage, so you can test that if you want to, but just feel free to use this on as many channels as you like. It's also going to be great for tracking because it's really low latency. If you enjoyed the Waveform compressor, definitely check out Open Compressor as well. This is our flagship product at Woodstock Audio. It's a lot more comprehensive. We've got this closed mode here, and this is a Swiss Army knife compressor. It's capable of doing a lot more different emulations than the free version. We also have a feedback mode, RMS detection. We also have the auto threshold feature, which people love. And what this does is rides that threshold. So you just set the amount of gain reduction you want. So if you're getting 4 dB of gain reduction in a quiet part, it will automatically change the threshold so that in a loud part, you're still getting 4 dB of gain reduction. We've also got auto release. We've got a clipper and a limiter built in with a detect mode that finds your transients. Built-in saturation that dramatically changes the tone and helps you recreate different compressors even more accurately. Split into odd and even. We've got downwards expansion, upward compression, a tone control, and then in open mode, you can see we've got a lot more visualizers. We can see the same waveform as the free plugin, but we also have a knee display, an EQ graph, a harmonics display for our saturation and our clipping, an oscilloscope, and then we even have the full screen waveform view that you're used to from Waveform compressor, but with even more settings and the clipper and limiter as well, so you can also see what those are doing.